Hey guys. All right, now that our notebook is set up, we are going to go over adding, subtracting, and multiplying monomials. Adding and subtracting we've already done, so that's going to be a little bit of a review for us. But right now I want you to fill out your notes with me, and we're going to look at what is a monomial. Well, we know mono means one, and so it is one term. One term. And remember in class we talked how important it was to understand those vocab words. So remember, term is a word that we've been using, and so monomial is just one term. So when we fill this out, what really is a monomial? It is a number or a variable or a product of numbers and variables. Okay? So an example would be 5. A monomial is, one term. So 5, that's a number, that's a monomial, that's one term. It could be a variable like x, that's one term. When it says it's a product of number and variables, it could also look like this, 5x, because we know we're multiplying, but it's still one term. So you could have 1/2 x squared. This is still one term. You could have A, B, C, and that is still one term. So it's all of these. This is a product of numbers and variables, product of number and variables. So it's one term. When we have monomials with the same variable in exponents, those are called like terms. And we've already looked at like terms on the last, on the quiz that you just took. So we looked at those like terms. So when we add and subtract monomials, all we're doing is we're combining like terms, which we've already worked on. And we do not change the variables and exponents. Remember, we look at that as a label, and labels have the exact same variables together. So if you look at number 1, 4x plus 5x, we've done this, and we know that's 9x, right? And my exponents don't change. We are just simply combining like terms. When we go down here, let's take a look at number 4. And remember, I want to simplify first, so I'm going to rewrite it. Negative 8x plus 8x, because a negative times a negative is a positive. And here I can look and I see that this is a property that we use, and this is the additive inverse. One's positive, one's negative, and it cancels out to be 0. So my answer here is 0. It's not even 0k. That's too confusing to the reader. It's actually nothing. We don't have anything. So what I want you to do is I want you to, in your notes, let's look and do the even numbers in your notes. We can pause the video, or we can just say I'm pausing the video, and I will give you the answers to these, okay, while I erase the board. You guys go ahead and be filling that out and pause the video, because we know this never works when I do it. So surely you've had some time to look over numbers 2 through 14. And so when I do these, here I get negative 14ab. 4 we've already done, and we said that was 0. Number 6 is going to be 11pqr. Remember, we've talked about in class that the coefficient here is 1. So we still need to combine them together. We have 11pqr. Number 8, are my labels the same? X to the 5th y squared, x to the 5th y squared. They are. So I can combine them, and I get negative 4x to the 5th y squared. Number 10, I look to see which ones are alike, and I have negative 2x and a positive 8x, which is 6x. I have 8xy and negative 5xy, which is a positive 3xy. And then I've got this leftover positive 3y. So if you look at what I did here, I circled my like terms because I know the x's go together, and so I combined that to be 6x. I underlined my 8xy and negative 5xy to combine them together to be 3xy. And then what did I have left over? I put it in a triangle plus 3y. So this just kind of helps me differentiate between the different terms. Number 12, I look and I see I've got a negative 2r squared and a negative 8r squared, which gives me negative 10r squared. And then I'm going to underline a negative r cubed and a 5r cubed, which is plus 4r cubed. So that would be my final answer there. Number 12, I've got this positive 9ab and this negative 12ab, which would be negative 3ab. And then I've got an a squared b squared and a 3a squared b squared, which gives me plus 4a squared b squared. So that's my answer for number 2 through 12. Let me erase that and I'll show you number 14. Oh, it works. And number 14. Now, look at this. It says subtract negative 4xy from 2xy. So that's a turnaround word. Remember, I'm subtracting it from. So it looks like this. 2xy minus a negative 4xy. And remember, when you have two negatives, this becomes a positive. So I get 2xy plus 4xy, and that actually gives me a 6xy. Okay? So hopefully that part was review for you because we've already combined like terms. And now let's flip over to the other side. So this is really our new, this is something new that we're going to do, and that's multiply monomials. So now we know what a monomial is, one term, and we're going to multiply those together. So what happens with those variables? Well, something does need to happen, and I want you to think about it like area. So here I have x to the a power times x to the b power. Now, if you're following a formula, my rule is that you keep the same base, which is x, and I add my exponents to get a plus b. So this is my rule here, okay? So what does that look like? Well, if you look at number 14, if your bases are the same, and my bases are the same, it's both 4, all I'm going to do is I'm going to keep the same base and add my exponents. So 8 plus 3 is 11. So I get 4 to the 11th power. Now, I could actually do that, 4 times 4 times 4 times 4 times 4, and so on, and get an actual number. But I'm just going to slow it down and take a look at what it looks like. We're not going to get that final answer. So number 15, my base is the same. It's negative 7. So I keep my same base, which is negative 7. Notice it's in parentheses, base in parentheses if it's negative. I add my exponents, and I get negative 7 to the 9th power. Number 16 is 2 to the negative 4th power. Now, what happens when we have a negative exponent? Do you remember? We've done this before. So if I have 2 to the negative 4th power, remember, I put it over 1, and I flip my reciprocal, and my exponent becomes positive. So I want you to go back in your notes and star when you have a negative exponent, because we've already done that. So now, on number 16, I get 1 over 2 to the 4th power. So real quick, go ahead and do 17, 18, 19 on your own. And I'll put the answers up here. Number 17, we get 15 to the 7th power. Number 18, we get 5 to the 8th power. And number 19, we get negative 1 to the negative 5th power. But because it's negative, it's going to be 1 over negative 1 to the 5th power. That's what happens when we have numerical bases. And if you're struggling with that or didn't get those answers, again, come see me for tutoring so we can make sure you understand that. All right. That's messing up. All right, let's look at what happens when we have a variable base. The rule stays the same. Those bases have to be the same. So if I look at number 20, x is the same, so I'm going to keep x and add my exponent, and I get x to the 7th power. Number 21, m is the same, so I'm going to keep m the same, add my exponents, I get m squared. Number 22, I get k to the 0 power. And do you remember anything to the 0 power is 1. So go back to your notes if you forgot that when we talked about those negative exponents a while back. Number 23, go ahead and try these on your own. See how we can do them. I'm sure you're going to pause your video. And then I will go ahead and write those answers up there. Number 23, this is really a to the 1 power, so I get a to the negative 5th power, which is 1 over a to the 5th. Here, I get x, this is really a 1 here. I get x to the 3rd y. So notice what I did. I'm not separating by them by a dot anymore. I'm just bringing them together because it's one term, and terms are not separated by dots. So it's just x cubed y. Number 25, I'm going to get s squared r to the negative 6th power, but remember, I can't have a negative exponent, so s squared r to the negative 6th. I am not going to move s downstairs. This s squared is a positive exponent, so he is okay to stay where he is. So I'm going to keep s squared up there, but I'm bringing r to the 6th down. So my final answer is s squared over r to the 6th. Okay? All right, and again, if you're struggling, come and see me. All right. So now what happens when you have coefficients and variables? So now we're going to combine those two together, and look what happens. We're going to treat those numbers like what we always do. And if I have 4 times 2, that rule stays the same. I'm going to multiply 4 times 2. And 4 times 2 is 8. Now I look at my bases of a. I'm going to keep a, it's the same base, and add my exponents, so I get 8a to the 10th power. I'm going to do a couple of these with you, and then I want you to try them on your own, and I will give you, actually, you know what? Let's do this. I will do the evens, and then I want you guys to do the odds, and then I'll put it back on there so you can see the answers. Number 28. So I have 2 times negative 7 times 3, and remember, commutative property, I can multiply any way I want. So here I get negative 21 times 2 is negative 42, and w to the, here's 5, 4 is 9, minus 1 is 8. So negative 42, w to the 8th power. Number 30, I'm going to get negative 12. I multiply my coefficients, and I get a to the 3rd, b to the 4th. Number 32, this is really a negative 1 right here. The coefficient is negative 1. So it's really negative 14, c to the 7th, d to the 11th power. Now, I've got some multiplying and addition going on here, so I got to go back to the basics, back to order of operations, where you multiply first. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. So we're going to multiply this right here, and I get negative 16k to the 5th. I'm going to multiply this right here, and I get 3k to the 5th. And then I'm going to add these two terms. And remember, how do you add them? When you add them, you keep the same label. We've already done it. All we're doing is combining like terms. So k to the 5th and k to the 5th are the same, so I can keep them. And I get negative 13k to the 5th is my final answer. All right, now I want you to do number 27 through 35, and I will give you those answers, okay? I'm back. Okay, so let's look at those. Number 27 is negative 15m to the 3rd power. Number 29 is going to be 16 over p to the 5th. Number 31 is negative 4 p to the 11th. Number 33 is negative 28 a to the 10th, b to the 9th. And number 35 is 6m to the 7th, n to the 4th. So if you guys did not get those answers for the odd ones, come and see me in tutorials so that we can work through that, because we are going to do the homework together in class, but I want you to make sure you understand that rule. So come on by and see me, and let me know if you have any questions. See ya.